Elias Ward had never planned to stand inside an alien palace. He stood still now, hands behind his back, breathing slow and steady. The floor beneath his boots was smooth like glass, glowing faintly with soft blue light. Tall, curved walls rose high above him, covered in moving symbols that shifted like water. The air smelled clean, almost sweet, nothing like Earth. He reminded himself of one thing: stay calm. Do your job. Elias was not a soldier anymore. He was a civilian security specialist, hired because he knew how to stay quiet, alert, and professional. His task was simple on paper: escort duty during a diplomatic visit. No fighting, no heroics. The aliens called themselves the Valeri. They were tall, elegant, with silver-toned skin and eyes that reflected light like polished metal. Their movements were smooth and careful, like every step had meaning. Today was important. The Valeri princess, Cerevale, was visiting a shared diplomatic hall built between human and alien space. It was meant to show trust, peace, cooperation. Elias stood several steps behind her, keeping his distance as protocol demanded. He watched everything: the ceiling, the guards, the diplomats. The small changes in posture that most people ignored. Princess Tsuri walked calmly ahead. She wore a long flowing robe made of thin, shining fabric that shifted colors as she moved. Her expression was peaceful, curious even. As she studied the human representatives greeting her, she was young by Valeri standards. Though still far older than Elias, her role was symbolic, a sign that the alien queen believed humans were worth trusting. That trust felt fragile. Elias's fingers twitched slightly. Something was wrong. He noticed it not because of alarms or shouting, but because of silence. One of the Valeri guards near the far pillar was standing still. His posture was tense, not relaxed like the others. His hand rested near a device hidden under ceremonial armor. Elias shifted his weight, eyes narrowing. Not protocol, he thought. He took one slow step forward. At that moment, everything happened at once. The guard moved. There was a sharp hum in the air, a sound Elias had never heard before, but somehow understood as danger. The device in the guard's hand began to glow. Princess returned, confused, her eyes widening slightly. No one else reacted fast enough. Elias did not think. He moved. He crossed the distance in a heartbeat, reaching the princess just as the device released a burst of energy aimed straight at her. Elias twisted his body and pulled her down, using his own armor frame as a shield. The blast struck him across the back. Pain exploded through his body like fire. He hit the ground hard, breath knocked from his lungs. His vision blurred, lights flashing white and blue. He heard shouting alien voices calling out, alarms finally sounding. The weight on his chest shifted as the princess was pulled away by her guards. Elias tried to push himself up but failed, muscles refusing to respond. Still alive, he thought. Good, strong hands turned him onto his side. Medical drones hovered above him, scanning. Lights blinking. Princess Uri knelt nearby, her face no longer calm. Her eyes were fixed on him. You are injured, she said. Her voice smooth but shaken. Elias forced a breath, then another. You're safe, he said hoarsely. That's what matters. Her gaze sharpened, studying him like he was something new. The attacking guard had already been restrained, surrounded by armed Valeri soldiers. The hall buzzed with tension and fear. Elias closed his eyes for a moment as pain washed over him again. He focused on breathing, on staying conscious. He had trained for moments like this, not against alien weapons, but against chaos. Soon, darkness pulled at the edges of his vision. When Elias woke, the world felt quiet. To quiet. He lay on a soft surface. Not a hospital bed exactly, but something similar. The room glowed with gentle light, the walls smooth and curved. Strange machines hovered silently nearby. He shifted slightly and felt a dull ache across his back and side. Easy, a calm voice said. He turned his head. Princess Ree stood beside the bed. She was alone. Elias blinked. Protocol? He asked weakly. She tilted her head. A gesture he had learned meant curiosity. This is permitted. You are under royal care. He tried to sit up and failed. I'll recover. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Her eyes reflected the light softly. You placed yourself between danger and my life. He shrugged as best he could. That was the job. She was silent for a long moment. That was not your duty, she said finally. You were not assigned to shield me with your body, Elias frowned. Doesn't matter. Someone had to act. Her gaze did not leave him. Our guards are trained from birth. Yet you moved first. Elias didn't know how to answer that. He looked away, embarrassed. I just noticed something was off. Princess Rhys straightened slowly. The queen will hear of this. His stomach tightened. That's not bad, right? In Valeri culture, she said, actions create bonds. Elias gave a weak smile. Humans usually just get a thank you and a medical bill. She did not smile back. That is not how it works for us. News of the incident spread quickly through the Valeri palace. A human had protected the princess. A human, fragile and short-lived, had acted without command. The queen watched the recordings in silence. She saw Elias move before the others. She saw him shield her daughter without hesitation. She saw something familiar. Resolved. When the queen finally spoke. Her voice was firm. Bring him to me when he is able. Elias did not hear those words yet. He lay back in the quiet room, staring at the curved ceiling. Pain still lingered, but he felt alive. That was enough for now. He had no idea that his simple decision made in less than a second had already changed his future. The queen would not forget, and she would not let him go so easily. Elias Ward stood inside the alien palace again, but this time, he was not there as a guard. He wore clean human clothes, simple and plain, provided by the Valeri. The fabric felt light on his skin, almost warm. His injuries had healed faster than expected, thanks to alien medical technology. Only a faint ache in his back reminded him of the energy blast. Two Valeri guards stood on either side of him. They were tall and silent, holding long staff-like tools that glowed softly. They were not threatening, but their presence made Elias aware that he was far from home. Ahead of him, massive doors slowly opened. Beyond them waited the queen of the Valeri. The throne chamber was vast and quiet. The floor shimmered like liquid crystal, reflecting the high ceiling above. Soft light flowed from unseen sources, bathing the room in calm colors. At the far end sat the queen. She was taller than the others, her silver-toned skin marked with faint glowing lines that showed age, wisdom, and authority. Her eyes were deep and steady, like stars seen through clear glass. Elias stopped where the guards indicated. He stood straight. Be respectful. He told himself. The queen studied him in silence. You are the human called Elias Ward. She said at last. Yes. Your Majesty, Elias replied carefully. You are no longer a soldier, yet you acted as one. The queen said. Why? Elias hesitated. I didn't think of it like that. I saw danger. I moved, without command, yes, without certainty of survival, yes. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in focus. In our culture, she said, such actions are rare. They are not accidents. Elias swallowed. With respect, Your Majesty, on Earth we call that doing the right thing. A quiet sound moved through the chamber. The guards shifted slightly. Princess Rhys stood near the queen's throne, watching closely. The queen did not look offended. Instead, she leaned forward. The right thing, she repeated. Interesting. She raised one long hand. A glowing symbol appeared in the air, slowly rotating. This symbol represents Vashara, she said. A living bond formed through protection. Elias frowned slightly. I'm not sure I understand. When one life is saved through personal sacrifice. The queen continued, a debt is created, not of payment, of connection. Elias felt uneasy. I didn't do it for a reward. That is precisely why it matters, the queen said. Princess Rhys stepped forward. Mother, he believes this meeting is about gratitude. The queen's gaze did not leave Elias. Gratitude is only the beginning. Elias cleared his throat. Your Majesty, I appreciate the care I've received, truly. But I assume I'll be returning to Earth soon. The room fell silent. The queen stood. She descended from the throne with slow, graceful steps. Each movement carried weight, not from force, but from authority. You will not, she said calmly. Elias froze. I'm sorry? You are bound to the royal house by action, the queen said. By our laws, you are under Valeri protection and responsibility. That sounds permanent, Elias said carefully. It is, the queen replied. Princess Suri watched his reaction closely. She could see the confusion on his face, the careful control hiding rising concern. With respect, Elias said, choosing his words. I'm a citizen of Earth. I have a life there. The queen tilted her head. You have a life because you chose to place yourself in danger for my daughter. Elias said nothing. You may communicate with your people, the queen continued, but you will remain here for now. For how long? Elias asked. The queen's answer was simple. Until the bond is fulfilled. And how does that happen? Elias asked. When the royal house no longer requires your presence, she said. That did not make him feel better. Word spread quickly. Through the Valeri court, the human who saved the princess now walked the halls under royal protection. Some aliens watched him with curiosity, others with doubt. He was smaller, weaker, short-lived. Why was he important? Elias felt their eyes on him as he moved through the palace. Princess Suri walked beside him, acting as both guide and observer. You are calm, she noted. I don't see much benefit in panicking. Elias replied. That is another unusual trait, she said. They stopped near a large open balcony overlooking a city of glowing towers and floating pathways. The view was breathtaking. This place is beautiful, Elias said quietly. It is, Suri replied. And dangerous. He looked at her. Because of politics? Yes. She turned to face him fully. Some believe my safety should have been handled only by Valeri hands. Your presence challenges that belief. I'm not trying to challenge anyone, Elias said, yet you do. She replied. By existing. She studied him for a moment. Do you regret saving me? Elias answered without hesitation. No. Her eyes softened, lit that cycle. An alarm echoed through part of the palace, not loud, but sharp. Elias reacted instantly, scanning for threats. Guards rushed past them. What is happening? Elias asked. A council challenge, Suri said. A test of authority. They arrived at a chamber where several Valeri nobles stood in a wide circle. Tension filled the air. One stepped forward. His voice was cold. The human's bond is unproven, the noble said. He should be released. The queen arrived moments later, her presence silencing the room. The bond was formed through action, she said. It is valid. Then test it, the noble replied. Let the human advise on a matter of risk. All eyes turned to Elias. He felt every gaze settle on him. Fear flickered in his chest, but he pushed it down. If I can help, he said. I will. A scenario was presented in an upcoming diplomatic meeting with a rival species, filled with hidden dangers. The Valeri proposed strict control and forceful presence. Elias listened carefully. Then he spoke. Your plan assumes fear prevents betrayal, he said. But fear creates desperation. Desperation leads to mistakes. The nobles reacted with surprise. What do you suggest, human? One asked. Trust, but prepare quietly, Elias replied. Make them feel safe enough to show their true intent. Silence followed. The queen considered his words. Finally, she nodded. Double quotes, wisdom does not always come from age. She said. The challenge ended. The bond strengthened. That night, Elias stood alone in his assigned chamber. Looking out at the alien stars, he felt trapped, but also respected. Far across the palace, the queen watched the same stars. The human stays. She said softly, not as a prisoner, but as something far more rare. Elias Ward was no longer just a visitor in the Valeri palace. Days passed, then weeks. He learned the slow rhythm of alien life, the long pauses before decisions, the careful choice of words, the quiet power behind calm expressions. The palace no longer felt strange to him, but it never felt like home. Every morning, he trained. The Valeri had provided him a wide-open chamber filled with smooth platforms and soft light. It was meant for physical balance and mental focus. Elias used it differently. He stretched, ran, practiced defensive movements, and repeated drills he had learned long ago. He was not as strong as the Valeri guards, but he was persistent. He adapted. He learned their patterns and adjusted his own. Several guards watched him now. Why does he continue? One asked quietly. He does not need to prove himself anymore. Another replied. Princess Reese stood nearby, observing in silence. She had watched Elias from the beginning. His refusal to give up, even when tired, confused and impressed her. Valeri warriors trained because they were told to. Elias trained because he chose to. After the session, Elias sat on the edge of a platform. Breathing slowly, you push yourself, Cerise said. He smiled faintly. Staying useful helps me sleep. She tilted her head. You are already useful. Not by my standards, he replied. The court continued to test him. Not with strength, but with questions. Elias was invited to council meetings, not to speak, but to listen. The Valeri discussed trade routes, border concerns, and relations with other species. Their thinking was precise, logical, and deeply rooted in tradition. One cycle. A dispute arose. A distant colony had stopped responding. Some believed it was rebellion. Others feared an external threat. The council debated strict action. Elias listened carefully. When the queen looked at him, he understood it was his turn. If the silence is intentional, Elias said, force will only confirm their fear. And if it is not, a noble asked, then something is wrong, Elias replied. And force won't help that either. The room was quiet. What would you do, human? The noble pressed. I would send help before sending judgment, Elias said. Some nobles disagreed openly. That is weakness, one said. Elias met the alien's gaze calmly. No, it's confidence. The queen raised her hand. The human speaks from experience, she said. We will listen. A relief team was sent instead of a fleet. The decision saved lives, still. Not all accepted him. Whispers followed Elias through the halls. Some nobles believed the queen relied on him too much. Others feared the idea of a human influence spreading through Valeri leadership. One evening, as Elias walked alone through a quiet corridor, his path was blocked. A Valeri noble stood before him. Tall and rigid. You do not belong here, the noble said. Elias stopped. I didn't ask to. You weaken our order, the noble continued. The queen's trust in you creates imbalance. Elias kept his voice steady. I don't control her choices. No, the noble replied. But you shape them. Elias took a slow breath. I act to protect. That's all. The noble studied him for a long moment. Be careful, human, he said finally. Even quiet waves can erode stone. He stepped aside. Elias continued on. Heart steady, but mind alert. Princess Suri found Elias later that cycle in the observation garden. The garden was not filled with plants, but light floating shapes that shifted color based on movement and sound. It was a place meant for reflection. You were confronted, Cerise said. Elias nodded. I expected it. You are not afraid, she observed. I am, Elias replied honestly. I just don't let it decide for me. She studied him closely. Among my people, she said. Fear is avoided. You accept it. It's part of being human, Elias said. We learn to move forward anyway. She considered that. Is that why you did not yield when you were injured? She asked out. Elias thought back to the moment of the attack, the sound, the light, the pain. I didn't think, he said. I reacted. Reaction reveals truth, Cerise said quietly. A crisis arrived without warning. A diplomatic envoy from a rival species arrived earlier than planned. Their presence was unexpected and tense. Security tightened. The palace filled with alert energy. The Valeri response was strict control. Elias watched from the edge of the preparation chamber. They feel cornered, he said. That is their nature, a guard replied. That doesn't mean we should mirror it, Elias said. Princess Ree looked at him. What do you suggest? Let me speak to them, Elias said. Several guards reacted at once. A human? One said sharply, they will not expect honesty from an outsider, Elias continued. That's exactly why it may work. The queen arrived moments later. You believe words will succeed where power might fail? She asked. I believe understanding reduces mistakes, Elias replied. The queen considered him carefully. Very well, she said. You will speak. The meeting was tense. The rival envoy expected threats and control. Instead, Elias offered calm explanation, transparency, and clear boundaries. He acknowledged their concerns without judgment. Slowly, the tension eased. The envoy left without conflict. The court was silent afterward. Then the queen spoke. "The human did not yield," she said, "and neither did peace." That night, Elias stood again beneath alien stars. He felt the weight of attention, expectation, and responsibility, yet he did not bend. Far above. The queen observed quietly. "The bond deepens," she said, "not through force, but through resolve." The warning arrived during the quiet hours of the palace cycle. Lights dimmed slightly, and a low tone echoed through the central halls. It was not an alarm meant for panic. It was a signal for attention. Elias Ward felt it before he heard it. He was in the training chamber, finishing his usual routine. His breathing slowed as he listened. Guards began moving with purpose, their steps quick but controlled. Princess re-entered the chamber, her expression serious. "We have a situation," she said. Elias nodded. "I figured." She gestured for him to follow. They walked through long corridors toward the strategy hall. Along the way, Elias noticed how many eyes turned toward him now, not with doubt, but expectation. That unsettled him more than suspicion ever had. Inside the strategy hall, the queen stood at the center, surrounded by advisors and commanders. A large glowing display floated in the air, showing a cluster of distant systems. "One of our outer stations has gone dark," the queen said as Elias approached. "Not silent, dark. What does that mean?" Elias asked. "Power loss. Communication failure. No distress signal," an advisor replied. "That's not normal," Elias said. "No," the queen agreed. "And it is close to contested space." Several advisors spoke at once. "We must send a fleet. We should isolate the region." "This could be a test." The queen raised her hand. Silence returned. She turned her gaze to Elias. "What do you see?" she asked. The room still. Elias studied the display carefully. He took his time. He knew this moment mattered. "If it were an attack," he said slowly, "they would want us to know." "Fear spreads faster than silence," one advisor frowned. "Then what is it?" "Someone wants us to react blindly," Elias replied. "To rush in. And your suggestion?" the queen asked. "Send a small team," Elias said. "Quiet, flexible. Focus on information first. That risks lives," a commander argued. "All choices do," Elias said calmly. "But fewer lives are risked this way." The queen watched him for a long moment. "You will be part of this team," she said. Elias's heart tightened. "I'm not Valeri." "You are bound," the queen replied. "And you see what others miss." Princess Ree looked at him with concern. "This is dangerous." Elias met her gaze. "So was the day we met." The mission vessel was smaller than a warship, designed for speed and subtlety. Its interior was simple, functional, and quiet. Elias sat strapped into his seat as the vessel slipped into motion. The Valeri team consisted of 3 guards, 1 technical specialist, and Elias. No one spoke much. As they approached the dark station, the emptiness felt heavy. No lights, no signals, just silence. The vessel docked carefully. Inside the station, the air was still. Emergency lights flickered faintly. The team moved slowly, scanning each corridor. Elias stayed alert, eyes moving, senses sharp. Power was cut from within, the technician whispered. "Not an external strike." "That means intent," Elias said. They reached the command center. The sight stopped them. The room was intact, but empty. No signs of struggle. No damage. Just absence. "This doesn't feel right," one guard said. Elias noticed something small, a panel slightly open. Wires rearranged in a way that looked deliberate. They left a message. He said quietly, "A trap?" The guard asked. "A test," Elias replied. The station's systems suddenly flickered to life. A recording activated. A calm alien voice filled the room. "You're being watched," it said. "Your response determines what comes next." The message ended. Silence returned. "This is a challenge," the technician said. "They want us to show force." Elias shook his head. "They want us to show fear." Princess Ceres's words echoed in his mind. "Politics is danger." "We should leave," Elias said. and respond publicly with restraint. The guards hesitated. Protocol demanded strength. Elias stepped forward. If we answer fear with force, we give them control. The team leader considered his words, finally. He nodded. We withdraw. Back at the palace, reactions were divided. Some nobles demanded immediate action. Others supported caution. The queen listened to all, then turned to Elias. You advised restraint again, she said. Yes, Elias replied. And awareness. What if you were wrong? A noble asked. Then we learn, Elias said. But if we rush, we may lose more than ships. The queen stood slowly. We will not strike, she declared. We will observe. The decision sent waves through the court. That evening, Elias stood in the observation garden once more. Princess rejoined him. You placed yourself in danger, she said softly. I chose to. Elias replied. Why? She asked. He thought for a moment. Because someone has to be willing to step forward without knowing the outcome. She studied him. You are unlike any being I have known. Elias smiled faintly. That makes two of us. Double quotes later, alone in her private chamber. The queen considered all she had seen. The human did not seek power. He did not seek control. Yet, his presence shaped decisions. That was influence, and influence was dangerous, but also necessary. The queen looked out at the stars. He acts not for gain, she said softly, but for balance. Her decision settled. When the threat fully revealed itself, the human would stand at the center, not because she commanded it, but because she trusted him, and she would not let him go. Elias Ward stood on the balcony of the Valeri Palace, gazing at the distant stars. The city below hummed with quiet life, lights shifting like flowing rivers. He had learned to read patterns in the world around him, both human and alien. Yet the universe still felt immense, filled with questions he could not yet answer. Princess Cerise stepped beside him. The mission went well, she said softly. Elias nodded. It could have gone worse, but yes. Well, she watched him for a long moment. You do not act for reward. You do not seek recognition. That is what makes you different. He gave a small, tired smile. I act because it is right. That's all. Her gaze drifted over the city below. My mother was uncertain at first, I know. She did not understand your ways. Elias shrugged. Understanding takes time. Perhaps more than you imagine, she said, smiling faintly. Yet she trusts you now. He looked at her, curious. Does she, truly? More than anyone else, Cerise said. You saved my life, and countless others followed your example. The court watches differently now. Elias felt a mix of pride and unease. He had not come to the Valeri Palace for glory. He had not expected recognition. Yet somehow, he had changed their world, quietly but surely. Weeks passed. Elias trained, advised, and observed. Each day tested him in new ways. Diplomacy, strategy, and culture, everything required patience and thought. He realized that being human was more than survival or strength. It was insight, adaptability, and persistence, one cycle. The queen summoned him to her private chambers. The room was quiet, decorated with flowing lights and patterns that shifted with her movements. Elias entered and bowed lightly. You have learned much, the queen said, her voice calm but firm. You have proven yourself through courage, judgment, and resolve. Thank you, your majesty. Elias replied, I only did what I could. That is exactly why you are worthy, she said. You act without fear of judgment, without need for reward. That is a rare quality, even among my people. Elias felt a weight in her words, rare, not special, not invincible, just rare. He understood that she valued subtlety, thought, and restraint more than brute strength. The bond is no longer fragile, she continued. It is firm. You are now part of our history, not by birth, not by command, but by action. Elias considered her words carefully. I am honored, but I am still human. I have a life back on Earth. The queen tilted her head. And that life is respected. Yet here, you serve another purpose. Humanity is not merely a species to us. It is an example. An example? He asked. Yes, she said. Through you, The Valeri learned that courage is not only in warriors, wisdom is not only in elders, integrity is not only in rulers. Your kind can act quietly, yet change the outcome of events across the stars. Elias absorbed her words, realizing their meaning. He had not fought to conquer. He had not sought power. He had simply acted with care, attention, and honesty. And in doing so, he had influenced an entire civilization. Later, in the observation garden, Elias and Suri walked together. Floating lights shifted gently, responding to their movements. Silence fell, comfortable and full of reflection. "Do you ever regret staying?" Suri asked. Elias paused. "Sometimes. I miss home. I miss Earth. But I don't regret helping you or the Valeri. I learned more than I expected. I see more than I expected." Suri smiled faintly. "You have changed how the court sees humans and how they see themselves," Elias added. "They value strength, logic, and tradition. But sometimes the simplest action, helping someone, protecting someone, changes more than any law." She nodded. "You did that, and they will remember." Elias looked out at the stars. "I hope so, for them, and for humans." A crisis arrived months later, not a battle, not an attack, but a choice. The Valeri Council debated a new border treaty. Some wished to dominate neighboring systems. Others wished to negotiate. Fear and pride clashed openly. The Queen consulted Elias first. "You are human," she said. "You see what we cannot. What do you advise?" Elias studied the data carefully. He considered each voice, each concern, each possibility. "I advise understanding," he said. "Do not assume hostility where none exists. Prepare, yes, but respond with patience. Let reason, not fear, guide action." The council murmured. Some doubted him. Some listened out, but the Queen did not. She followed his advice. The decision avoided war. Entire systems remained safe. Lives were preserved. And the court saw that human insight, simple, clear, persistent, could alter the course of events far more than force or threats. That night, Elias stood on the palace balcony again, looking at the stars. Princess rejoined him, her expression calm. "You have changed the course of history," she said. He shook his head. "I only did what I could. That is all any human can do." "But that is enough," she said. "Because humans are remarkable." Elias smiled faintly. "Remarkable or stubborn?" "Both," she said. He laughed quietly. For the first time in many cycles, he felt a sense of peace. Far below, the city lights shimmered. The stars above blinked silently. And somewhere, across the galaxy, humans were quietly being remembered, not for power, but for courage, care, and determination. Elias understood now. Humanity's triumph was not in fleets, weapons, or conquest. It was in persistence, in action guided by principle, in standing for what was right, even when no one else could or would. The Queen had refused to let him go, but he did not mind, because in staying, he had become more than a protector. He had become a symbol, a bridge between species, a reminder that humanity, though small in scale, could shape the universe with the simplest acts of bravery. And in that quiet triumph, Elias finally understood something that would stay with him forever. Being human was enough. Being human could change everything.